Opening credits. Conspiracy Theories, Bizarre Secrets and Suspicious Cover-Ups in History. Written by Wesley Jones. Narrated by Rick Parody. Chapter 1. Conspiracy Theory as Pseudo-Theory. Theory is often regarded as a systematic framework formed of concepts that analytically account for phenomena observed. Philosophers for centuries have debated whether the goings-on are external to human thoughts and cognition, and thus real and material, or whether they are constructs of the mind, logically assembled and maintained by the exercising of reason with no independent reality. Theory is applied in both the social and natural sciences. In the social sciences, disputes emerge, once again, between those who advocate that there is a real material world outside the remit of the observer, and those who propose that the social sciences can only be understood internally by its inhabitants, resulting in normative theories that encompass political theory as well as historical, social, and anthropological paradigms under the broader domain of hermeneutics. In the natural sciences, the matter is somewhat different. Although philosophers of science, such as Van Fresen, advocate a scientific image along with anti-realism, most would accept that the methodological practice of the natural sciences is to generate hypotheses that form or derive from an overarching theory. This runs parallel to the procession of validating the phenomenon in question, with the eventual goal of producing a correlation between the explanatum and the explainum. Classifying both the social and natural sciences as science, with the use of theory, means that the procedures of verification, evidence, and explanation take the same abstract steps, even though the physicist is completely divorced from the world as he studies, as where the sociologist, by the nature of human existence and the definition of the discipline, is inescapably part of the phenomenon he studies, society. Nonetheless, the issues that arise for both the sciences center around preemption. When there is more than one theory competing for the explanation of the phenomena in question, or theoretical redundancy, when there is a theory that explains certain aspects of a phenomenon, but not every time nor in every context. This, coupled with using evidence-based empirical data to warrant the application and validation of a theory, means that both the social sciences and natural sciences constantly refine their hypotheses and make the predictions on future outcomes. These are the formal understandings and uses of theory across the spectrum of the sciences, and thus is what sets both theory apart from pseudo-theory and science apart from pseudoscience. It is for this very reason that conspiracy theory is a pseudo-theory. Take firstly one of the holy grails of scientific method, prediction. These abound in the natural sciences, ranging from how, why, and when your PC will turn on to planes flying and equations out of time and space. The social sciences, as already mentioned, tread a much more precarious, unreliable, and unstable ground. However, through the collection of data based on conceptualized variables and statistical models of causation, predictions can be levied. Anyone who has an investment portfolio can see the benefits of employing time series and regression analysis in economics, although the latest financial crisis illustrates that the predictions are far from completely accurate. Conspiracy theory, as a serious ontological and epistemological alternative to social phenomena, must provide predictions, demonstrate their applicability, and warrant evidence that at least renders their explanations as plausible or highly likely. Although in the social sciences this does not map exactly due to the nature of the measurement of artificially constructed social variables, conspiracy theory falls spectacularly short regarding the relationship between observed phenomena, explanation, and the use of reliable and relevant data, and thus prediction. Here, conspiracy theories are separated, classifying them into single-point conspiracy theories and meta-conspiracy theories. The latter come with an ensemble of predictions for the future. These range from totalitarian, one-world governments to alien control to the accession of spiritual enlightenment in other dimensions and planes of existence. However, there are no time limits placed on these occurrences, only weak inductive inferences. Consequently, as a readily defensible claim, conspiracy theorists have the grace of an ever-winding clock on their side, with limitless time as a luxury, for if it does not happen today, it will happen tomorrow. These are often the arguments used by the classic Marxists, that there is no time frame specified for the proletariat revolution, but it will happen one day. Yet it is for these same reasons that in this context, both Marxism and conspiracy theories are pseudoscientific theories, as neither are falsifiable, that is, they cannot be shown to be false. Consequently, they stay in the realm of speculation. With this outcome, we have the position of scientific theory versus unfalsifiable theory. It is argued elsewhere that conspiracy theory is a form of political theory and philosophy. Yet conspiracy theory is not even competitively viable as a political and social theory. To further grapple with these issues, one has to look at the philosophical frameworks and implications of the use of theory in the social sciences, the area in which the conspiracy theory is attempting to work in. Whether one is a structuralist, a functionalist, a critical theorist, or a postmodernist, one can look at these social phenomena and at least rapidly apply identifiable frameworks to these goings-on based on, in one way or another, the use of data and evidence. Thus, a discourse analyst would look at how issues of insanity are constructed in the work and reports of clinical psychologists themselves, which brings these conceptual frameworks into existence. A classical critical theorist may demonstrate how mass consumerism and the capitalist enterprise of consumption neglects the critical thinking capacities of the citizens of the modern state. From the position of the social sciences, they share the same standpoint, in that there is a phenomenon to be explained and one applies a theory that can be backed up by some sort of evidence, even though the constitution of evidence in the social sciences is an elusive activity. Conspiracy theory operates in reverse with paradoxical tendencies in terms of both phenomena observed and epistemology. This is because by its very nature, conspiracy theory runs contrary to the goings-on observed in terms of widely accepted explanations. That is, it is a polemist contrarian to other explanations that are presented. It therefore advocates a behind-the-scenes explanation for what really is going on. Financial meltdown, civil unrest, and government issues are not caused by idioms advocated by social science, but are a deliberately conspired plot executed in the background that most are not aware of. Conspiracy theory and political theory both use observable data, yet conspiracy theorists add the stipulation of a deliberately falsified social reality, that what is really going on does not match the accepted explanations, and thus, in turn, the accepted explanation is not what is really going on. This then leads to the paradox in conspiracy theory with regards to observed social phenomena and epistemology. This is that the observed phenomenon is allocated to the realm of conspiratorial explanation. The explanation encapsulates the activity of Kabbalist agents operating grand tricks of misdirection, yet simultaneously, these grand tricks are not only detected by conspiracy theorists, but are fully deciphered. In effect, the conspirators are both fully competent and almost omnipotent, like in that they can control all facets of social activity, yet they are completely inept in the maintenance of secrecy, as they leave in a mass trail of clues for conspirators to find. The final part of conspiracy theory as pseudo-theory is its malleability in the face of empirical data. When evidence and data does not match a theory in science, the theory is either reformulated or discarded. This is the same in conspiracy theory, where the theories themselves evolve and adapt to take account of newly emerging evidence. We have seen this with the 9/11 truth movement constantly evolving their theory in the face of ever-increasing evidence from structural engineers for how the Twin Towers collapsed by fire. However, when theory is adapted in science, the fit between theory and evidence is refined and tightened so that the theory now matches the data in a more succinct and plausible way. In part, this is the reason why the falsifiability of a theory is imperative. Conspiracy theorists attempt the same execution, in which the conspiracy theory will then match the observable data in a correlated manner. Yet again, though the theory runs in the opposite direction, moving further away from the evidence presented towards elaborating and embellishing the conspiracy theory further. For instance, take the skull and bones theory that the U.S. government and financial system is secretly run by an all-white boys club out of Yale University, or somewhat related to a Freemason secret organization. What then happens when a black president out of Harvard takes up the office? The data does not quite fit the theory. Abandon the theory? No, reformulate it in the opposite direction that Obama must be a black Freemason. What conspiracy theory does is more than just maintain an equation between data and theory in a reversal and regressive manner, but the schema of conspiracy theory means that in terms of psychological inference, all data becomes interpreted as conspiratorial phenomena. This rarely happens in the sciences, for when data no longer fits a theory, it soon becomes disregarded. This was seen throughout history, from Copernicus to Edwin Hubble, and a shift now beginning to emerge in terms of free market economics. Conspiracy theory is intrinsically more dogmatic than theory in the social and natural sciences, producing disjointed theoretical explanations between the theory and data. This constant malleability of conspiracy theory, working with different pools of data that no longer correlates to the conspiracy theory used in explanation, and thus neglecting the data, and observed phenomena, is just one aspect that makes conspiracy theory a pseudo-theory. Chapter 2. Conspiracy Theorists. How to believe one theory from another. A conspiracy theory is a belief that a particular event is the result of a secret plot rather than the actions of an individual person or chance. Often unfairly cast as outsiders in society, conspiracy theorists prefer to be known as truth seekers. Rather than accepting events exactly as reported, truth seekers will often fit current news stories into their wider worldview. With the rise of the internet, truth seekers have more influence than ever before. The mainstream media, MSM, is now controlled by very few news media outlets. Truth seekers are concerned that such important information is handled by so few organizations. The alternative media, AM, is available for anyone to research and view online. By digesting a healthy mix of mainstream news and alternative news, people can find new ways of looking at the issues that affect them and each and every person on Earth. Poverty, conflict, and health are just some of the issues that are addressed within the alternative media community, with interesting results. Notable alternative media reporters include Alex Jones, David Icke, and Richard D. Hall. There are many, many others. If you are thinking about who to follow, you may make a decision based on the reporter's research, the subject that they are passionate about, or simply someone that you feel an affinity with. Authenticity is very important. Truth seekers are keen to see hard evidence and facts. Some theories that alternative media are passionate about include terrorist attacks. Whenever a terrorist attack takes place, there is tragedy. The news will report on what has happened and the casualties. Quite understandably, the majority of people are sickened by nonsensical violence. Truth seekers will often look closely at the event. They may question whether the event took place as reported. They may also question the mainstream view of who the perpetrators are. They will also question the reason given for a terrorist event, looking for further explanations. War. War is a terrifying prospect. Yet, war is also big business. Millions of dollars can be made from the manufacture and supply of weaponry. Truth seekers will look beyond the mainstream reports of war to see what is really happening to the victims of such events, and why. Poverty. Many millions of people live well below the poverty line. They exist in a world where food, shelter, and health are in short supply. The mainstream media rarely covers poverty as an issue, unless a terrible tragedy takes place on a large scale. Truth seekers believe that the real story is happening all day, every day. They aim to discover why people are kept in poverty, while some people amass great wealth. Other popular truth-seeking topics include chemtrails, the Illuminati, and space-related subjects. The only way you can decide what to believe in is by reviewing all of the facts on issues that are of interest to you. Or you could simply agree with what the mainstream media advises. Whatever you choose, you should realize that you do have a choice. Chapter 3. Postmodernism is the genesis of contemporary conspiracy theory. Postmodernism, as a broad intellectual, social, and literary movement, is hard to capture and define, not more so due to the deliberate wishes of some of its protagonists for the paradigm to remain enigmatic. As many postmodernists question the practice and prorogation of meta and universal theories grounded in frameworks of truth, there are obvious overlaps between postmodernism, philosophy, and the social sciences. This is in terms of both the subjects of knowledge and the products of research and literature. For postmodernism, the role, use, and application of theory are not only pivotal to epistemological questions, but have fundamental consequences on conceptions of reality. One area completely overlooked is the relationship between conspiracy theory and postmodernism. One tenet of postmodernism, as the name directly suggests, is that the analysis of knowledge, society, and ontological requires a framework that moves beyond the universal rationalism espoused by the Enlightenment period. Enlightenment bore the mark of the birth of modernity, but is now dead. We therefore require a postmodern theory to succeed the shackles of the modern period. For the sake of brevity, this usually entails contextual sensitivity and relativism as opposed to universalism and absolute truth. Although conspiracy theories have always been present throughout history, the genesis of the modern-day conspiratorial phenomenon is taken to be that of JFK. This saw the inception of a meta-conspiracy theory in which political phenomena was not what it seemed. Behind what appears to be the establishment, there is a ruling elite, an organization of individuals who act as puppet masters, the real elite behind the masquerading elite. This undoubtedly gave rise, over the last 40 years, to meta-conspiracy theories encompassing the Illuminati, the Bilderberg Group, the Freemasons, and the New World Order. It then began to propagate meta-historical continuing conspiracy theories. For instance, the New World Order, or Illuminati, does not just control all the facets of political, economic, and social activity, but this plot has been deliberately designed and executed throughout history. This changes the dimension of modern conspiracy theory from being just meta, casual, to being all historically encapsulating. This ushered in new questions, not just of current affairs, but of the nature and the validity of history itself. This above illustrates one aspect of modern conspiracy theories, subsumed by the postmodern tradition. For contemporary conspiracy theorists, we now require a philosophy and conceptual framework that moves past the Enlightenment period's proposal of liberalism and representative government. This is because, in the world of conspiracy theorists, the latter paradigms are evidentially fallacious. We therefore need new theories to look at incidents such as JFK, the Iraq War, 9/11, and observable inequalities in wealth and living standards. For the exclaimer of conspiracy, old political ideologies and theories of government, society, and civil interaction are inept. Instead, conspiracy theories serve as a better explanation for the postmodern world. It is these arguments advanced by conspiracy theorists to accommodate the postmodern political world that paradoxically has its roots in the postmodernist tradition. Certain aspects of postmodernism entail a revamped romanticism, the vacuum left behind by the insufficient claim to universal truth and knowledge is filled by the epistemological tendency that anything goes. In a postmodern world in which scientific claims to true knowledge are questioned and merely labeled as social constructionism, that it is the social process and practices of institutions, such as universities and scientists, that perpetuate science as truth. The discourse of science, for some postmodernists, is filed under oppressive regimes that perpetuate universal truth. Instead, Jacques Derrida's notorious deconstruction theory comes vividly to life in that any subject matter is not just open to interpretation, but the possibilities of interpretation are endless. In today's world, we see conspiracy theorists operating within this framework. Mistrust in scientific facts and the agents of established social institutions, especially those who endorse the official account of 9/11, is coupled with both the ability and license to look at phenomena such as 9/11, the Iraq War, JFK, the banking crisis, and interpret them in any way possible. In fact, this is incredibly salient for conspiracy theorists. The deconstruction theory rings true in that the narrative of conspiracy theory is applicable to any phenomena imaginable. Postmodernists scream out that any phenomena are open to infinite alternative accounts, and conspiracy theorists seize on the opportunity. Ironically, under the postmodernist tradition, conspiracy theory fall victims to its own claim and purchase of truth through its own self-created discourse. By dismissing the truth presented by established institutions, conspiracy theorists explicate their own version of truth. However, both opposing factions are discourses, and conspiracy theory mirrors the account of liberal government, but with its own formation of truth. Postmodernism, under Foucault and Derrida, denounced prophetic one-liners such as discourses forms of objects of which they speak, and thus instead of truth, standing outside narratives and discourses, the separation is not possible, as discourses themselves form truth and reality in a circular and interlocking manner. This is precisely what the discourse of conspiracy theory does when proposing the truth behind social and political phenomena. For instance, the movement called the 9/11 Truth Movement, by rejecting the modern explanation of social and political phenomena, by employing open interpretation that requires no inference to establish scientific facts, and by creating a discourse which forms truth, and thus a notion of reality, modern conspiratorial phenomena finds its foundation in postmodernism. Chapter 4: Credit Crunch Conspiracy. There is a lot of hue and cry about the prevailing credit crunch, and it won't be wrong to say that all the sectors of the economy felt the ripple effects of the economic slowdown. The credit crunch that originated in the United States sent tentacles to far-off places. Many financial experts are wondering whether the credit crunch was intentional Or is it a reality? Credit crunch has been seeping into the economy for quite some time. Whether you call it miscalculation or lack of far-sightedness of statisticians, the results is in front of us. Rising prices, rate adjustments, etc. are two of the most important aspects of the slowdown. What are the credit crunch conspiracy theories? Some are of the opinion that credit crunch can be attributed to the following factors. Credit crunch is what the lenders were looking forward to. The statisticians miscalculated the deals. The business entities, despite being warned, were ignorant. Certain unforeseen events confused experts. Scenario number 1. Credit crunch is what the lenders were looking forward to. The first scenario is being brushed aside by many, so we leave it for the time being. Scenario number 2. The statisticians miscalculated the deals. The second scenario may not be absolutely true. The main reason being that these professionals earn their livelihood by doing the work of actuaries, so this may be a distant possibility. Scenario number 3. The business entities, despite being warned, were ignorant. The third scenario may have some truth to it. It is not uncommon for organization heads to ignore certain facts. However, is it possible for all organization heads to ignore facts? Is it not possible for a single organization head to influence the credit crunch? Undoubtedly. There are several instances when heads of an organization do alter facts for their benefit, short-term incentives as well as bonuses. Even amidst tremendous downsizing, there were quite a few number of high-profile layoffs. It proves that the financial organizations do not hold their heads responsible for the slowdown in the economy. Scenario number 4. Certain unforeseen events confused experts. The fourth theory can't be ignored altogether. It has got some backings. Hundreds of lenders may have approved loans to their subprime borrowers without anyone noticing it. Returning to scenario 1 again. Although there are a number of factors, it can be ascertained that a combination of factors led to the financial crisis. Coming back to the first theory, many are of the opinion that the lenders have rightly placed us where we are today. The lenders have eaten away at a major slice of the economic pie. Moreover, they are also approaching central and state banks for support, and they also expect stimulus packages from the Fed to bail them out. Nevertheless, a major portion of their earnings gets translated into taxes. In a nutshell, it can be concluded that a combination of several factors have led to the credit crunch. If the lenders had mistakenly calculated the outcome of subprime lending, how can the statisticians be spared? Rise in property prices is not uncommon. We have had such instances before, so the outcome could have been assessed. Chapter 5. A Debt Conspiracy Theory. The secret to a stress-free life is to become and remain debt-free. Easier said than done. I can hear you say that, but with a good financial plan, hard work, and a fair amount of discipline, you can achieve this freedom and benefit by being debt-free for the rest of your life. For every illness, there is either a cure or a treatment. Debt is an illness that is afflicting millions of U.S. citizens, and in order to deal with this issue, we must first become a doctor in order to diagnose the problem and describe a course of medication and treatment that will cure the sickness. And then we need to become a nurse to administer the prescribed treatments to ensure the right steps are taken to ensure a full and healthy recovery. So where do we start? There are generally 3 types of people in this world: those who want to do things for themselves, and those who would rather let others help them achieve the same goals. The third person is someone you cannot afford to be, and that is the person who buries his or her head in the sand and then expects things to correct themselves without any interference. This person is living in a dream world, but there is hope for the other two. You are more than capable of dealing with creditors yourself, but you will have to document and keep records of every conversation and agreement for years to come. Many people much prefer to use the services of debt assistance agencies who work on their behalf. Many of these services are not free of charge and should only be used once you have tried every possible thing you could think of to reduce and pay off your debt. The only difference between yourself and a debt relief agency is that they have the knowledge and information to deal with debt and financial institutions, whereas you do not. The one thing you should know is that this knowledge and information does not take years to accrue, and the processes concerned are very simple and can be systematically put into place. There are methods of debt reduction and elimination that are both ethical and legal that the financial institutions do not want in the public domain, as they would lose millions every year in reduced interest payments. Debt relief companies must be aware of these methods also. So why do they only apply a handful of them and not all of them? Something smells fishy when a company asks you to pay for their assistance in reducing debt, and then they don't apply all the methods available to them to do so. Sure, they are true to their word and do provide the consumer with the saving, but it is never as big a saving as it should be. The methods in question, when applied properly, could have you debt-free in 3 years, and that is without increasing payments. There is a theory that there could possibly be a deal in place between the lenders and the debt assistance companies that allow a savings for the consumer, a profit for the debt company, and a slight reduction in interest profits for the lender, therefore making it seem like the consumer is the winner, whereas in actual fact, you are still the loser. Chapter 6: New World Order Conspiracy Theory. The New World Order is a conspiracy theory that tends to explain the emergence of a one-world government sometime in the future. These conspiracies have culminated to other connections, especially the end of the world theory. The common subject on the New World Order is, however, related to a power elite group of people functioning in secrecy to eventually take over the world, where the sovereign nations or states will be no more. These ideologies are encompassed by the procedural performance of history into addressing certain matters of economy, governance, and politics in addition to wars as well as finance. The New World Order has had different conspiracies over the years. In the 1990s, the entire belief was related to the end of times and an anti-government rights group from the United States. The end of the world conspiracy was interrelated with the coming of the Antichrist. The Antichrist is said to rule the nations by fulfilling the writings in the Bible. The term the New World Order is not that the old, and neither is it that new. In the early 20th century, various statesmen used this term to refer to a new age of politics, where power would be cost-shared to equal balances. Other unfounded fears that culminated to the emergence of these conspiracies were, for example, the Illuminati, Freemasons, and the Jews getting connected to a New World conspiracy that would eventually turn catastrophic according to skeptics. The Illuminati, for example, as a result of a German socialist who intended to teach rationalism in mystery schools. The major objective of this group was also connected to revolutionaries of the world leadership and the upbringing of new ruling techniques. In many of the theories that connected the Antichrist to the end of the world, it is said that he will be the last pope. This is a conspiracy theory that continuously became common in the early 21st century, as opposed to the fact that the Antichrist might also be the leader of the European Union or the Secretary General of the United Nations. The Illuminati was a conspiracy that was said to have ended in 1785. However, it appears as if there are traces that lead back to this cabal even of late. Back on 29th of May 1954 at Hotel de Bilderberg in Netherlands, a conference was held that lasted for 3 days. The meeting was supposed to bring two continents together with a plan to promote Atlanticism. During this time, the set objective was supposed to better understanding between the United States and Western Europe. Since 1954, Bilderberg Group became common, and every year they hold a meeting referred to as the Bilderberg Conference to promote the two markets. The club is usually made of about 140 notable guests who come in without invitation. The question is, are these groups having these meetings with a hidden agenda? Is the coming age that was conceptually spoken about by key figures in the past, like Woodrow Wilson, is the New World Order finally here? Well, only time will tell. Chapter 7. Conspiracy Theories and Fear. What you focus on, you empower. Investing any passion in the duality matrix by being outraged about evil does exactly the thing that keeps you and the rest of humanity at lower frequency, increasing the power of entities in reverse polarity by feeding them with energy. Whenever you focus on or push against something, you empower it. The key is rising above it. Have you noticed how much fear you tap into when you read, hear, or think about these ideas of being controlled and manipulated? Have you sensed the drop in your frequency and the diminution of joy that is triggered when you immerse yourself in these conspiracy discussions? What does that tell you? If you're alert to it, you'll know that you've moved into the territory of the part of you that thrives on fear. What aspect of you is it that gets excited from and feeds off fear? It's your reptilian brain. While the reptilian brain does handle some important jobs within you, like controlling your autonomic nervous system and making sure you don't get run over by a bus, it is not the aspect of you that will lead you to freedom and happiness. Heeding the call of the reptilian brain leads you down in frequency and further from the paradise reality of ease and joy. So, why would you lower your frequency by drinking in and passing on to others fearful stuff? In addition to the calling of your reptilian brain for more scary input, your reptilian brain is also about status. The smarter you appear, the higher your status. In the reptilian brain's world, status is a key to survival. Your ego, which is the psychological overlay for your reptilian brain, finds gratification in demonstrating that you are one of the few that have woken up and caught on to the machinations of the evildoers. The irony is, however, that the more people with which you share the information, and consequently the fear, the lower the vibrational frequency and corresponding consciousness level of the whole of humanity. And the more determined people become to overcome the evil by pushing against it, the more it is strengthened. So the more energy given to the theoretical conspiracies, the more the conspiracies or the fear they generate are empowered, and the further disempowered humanity is. The lower your frequency consciousness, the less you can perceive, and the more easily you are manipulated. So if you are worried about human enslavement, or whatever the conspiracy theory du jour is, the least helpful thing you can do is dwelling on it and share the fearful stuff with everyone. The sadly humorous thing about conspiracy theories is they thrive off fear, and knowing about them does not create some sort of important awareness that leads to moral victory and a triumph of good over evil. You can't overcome evil by railing against it or even focusing on it. In order to escape the clutches of evil, you will have to opt out of the reality where there is such a thing as good and evil. And the way you do that is by rising in frequency above the duality matrix through choosing joy and unconditional radiance, the way of the spiritual master. This comes as a disappointment to the reptilian brain-driven ego, which thrives off the notion that fighting is the only way to solve problems. The most powerful thing you can do with your awareness is to choose to focus on and dwell in joy and to radiate love instead of fear, thus bringing the whole of humanity up in frequency. That is what will actually set humanity free. True freedom from the tyranny of fear is found simply by raising your frequency out of fear and into joy by choosing to shift your focus from what you don't want to what you do want. Human beings only comprehend their true power when they are at a high enough level of consciousness to do so. So if you want to empower humanity, focusing on joy and raising your own vibrational frequency to the level where joy is your experience raises the consciousness of humanity and offers your fellow human beings the opportunity to comprehend their power. When you know your own power, it is no longer possible to be a powerless victim. So do yourself and all humanity the service of keeping your focus aligned with love and joy. Chapter 8: Greatest Conspiracy Theories in Sports History. Here is a list of the greatest conspiracy theories in sports history. Number 1. Chicago Black Sox Scandal, 1919 World Series. Baseball players until today cannot forget the rage on the 1919 World Series that blemished the clean spirit of the sport. 8 Chicago Black Sox, known as Chicago White Sox players, were accused of throwing the series against the Cincinnati Reds. These players are Shoeless Joe Jackson, Eddie Cicotte, Claude Lefty Williams, Fred McMullen, Buck Weaver, Charles Swede Risberg, Oscar Happy Felsch, and Arnold Chick Gandil. They were pressed with criminal charges, but were later acquitted. However, in lieu of the damage given to the minds of the fans and the spirit of the sport, these players were banned from playing professional baseball for life. Number 2. Super Bowl number 3. Loyal fans of Super Bowl will find this item reasonable in being included in the list. The Super Bowl number 3 game between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Jets is one of the biggest upsets in the sport's history. Just when everyone knew that the crowd's favorite Baltimore Colts will win the game, Joe Namath of the New York Jets kept emphasizing that they would win the matchup. "We're going to win Sunday, I guarantee it," said by Joe. Apparently, the Jets win the game in a shocking 16-7 scoring that furthered the AFL-NFL merger of 1970. Number 3. Phantom Punch. One of the most debated sports events till today is the Phantom Punch. This boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston has branched out different stories and accusations. A ringside photographer, Neil Leifer, captured the most popular photograph in the sport's history where Ali standing in front of Liston shouts, "Get up and fight, sucker." Liston, being down in the first round, spreads rumors that the Islam community threatened him and he owed money from the mafia. Number 4. 1985 NBA Draft Lottery. Otherwise known as the Fixed NBA Draft Lottery, the 1985 NBA Draft Lottery was the first ever NBA draft lottery. Ironically, people believe that the lottery is corrupted. Many have witnessed and were very keen in the movements and gestures of people concerned. The video that is still viewable online gives hints of this conspiracy. Number 1. Upon putting the envelopes in the drum, the 4th envelope is clearly thrown out of the clear sphere. Number 2. The commissioner, David Stern, inhales deeply before getting the New York Knicks. Stern, who proclaims himself a fan of the Knicks, triggered the Irving scandal, where the Knicks got a great 7-footer player on their team. To clear up the mess, the envelopes were replaced by ping pong balls. Number 5. Game 6 of the 2002 NBA Western Conference Finals. As the latest event with conspiracy theory in this list, fans of the Kings and Lakers surely still have their guards up regarding this issue. The conspiracy theory alleviated from Tim Donaghy's resignation as NBA referee in the year of 2007. The resignation was caused by the fixed games the NBA allows. This was taken legally to the U.S. District Court, emphasizing a Game 6 battle in May 2002. Donaghy specifically testified that unreasonable personal fouls were given to the Kings to pave the way for a Lakers win. Chapter 9. Health Conspiracy Facts. There's nothing more appropriate than the old adage, if you want to distinguish a conspiracy theory from a conspiracy fact, then follow the money trails when it comes to the subject of health. More and more people are waking up to the realization that there's a mass deception going on, that there has been for many very successful cheap, natural, and non-toxic alternative cures for life-threatening diseases like cancer and heart disease for countless years, but have been suppressed by the medical pharmaceutical establishment due to fear that their business will be undercut. Many health deceptions have been spun by the medical pharmaceutical establishment and respective governments, taking in huge revenues, while they quietly pay off the press to suppress the truth. Yes, money is more resilient than truth. In light of this, here are health conspiracy facts. Number 1. The war on cancer. We hear various news media sources blurt out the saying, "We will end the war on," followed by whatever it is, the war on cancer or terrorism or crime, etc. It stuns me to know that many people cannot see right through this ruse, that there will never be an end to these wars. That's because there's too many people in high places keeping these things going for power, political gain, and profit. Look up people like Royal Rife and his cancer machine, or Dr. Tullio Simoncini, that cancer is a fungus, or Gelson therapy. And there's Dr. Stanislaw Berzinski, discovered a cancer cure using gene therapy. Watch out for these attempts to discredit these pioneering individuals and highly effective but suppressed therapies. Some of the discredit is medical pharmaceutical establishments secretly funded. Number 2. Linus Pauling and his unified theory of heart disease. Brilliant researcher, biochemist Linus Pauling discovered essentially that heart disease was a result of a long-term vitamin C deficiency. His therapy involved using 2 amino acids, lysine and proline, to stop LDL, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol, or bad cholesterol, from finding its way on the artery's inner walls, causing eventual restriction of blocking of blood flow. He also gave very high regular doses of the deficient vitamin C to heart disease patients, which contributes to healthy vessels. The results produced high heart disease cure rates. However, because research is mainly owned and governed by the medical pharmaceutical establishment, he was refused funding for this cheap therapy. Number 3. GMO. If corporations are so proud of their GMO food, then why don't they advertise it on the labels? Is it because they know that many people don't want GMO and are aware of the documented facts that it is potentially dangerous? How about the exploitations GMO corporations have on farmers for selling Terminator seeds? Seeds that grow to produce no fertile offspring, so the farmers have to keep buying new seeds. How about the fact that Congress pushed through a bill granting unhindered continuation of GMO? This is proof that the politicians involved don't care about our health, while they received corporate backhanders to action this. Number 4. Vaccinations. No wonder vaccines have harmful side effects when our children receive some 30 vaccinations at such an early age on an undeveloped immune system. What about all those awful ingredients like mercury containing thimerosal, aluminum, formaldehyde, phenol, Pig's pancreatic matter, putrid animal blood. Did you hear about the careful long-term study in New Zealand showing that non-vaccinated children turned out to be healthier than those vaccinated? The same has been found in Germany and Russia. Number 5. Fluoride in water. Contrary to what you get from some media sources, fluoride shows many cases where it is harmful. Look up some of the websites that document this and decide for yourself if this is true. Many people are refusing to accept the idea that those who think that fluoride is bad for you are crazies. Number 6. The HIV/AIDS hypothesis. This has been for some time that the first thing to realize, something that should bring the whole house of cards come tumbling down regarding the HIV/AIDS hypothesis, is the fact that the HIV test is greatly flawed by its wild inaccuracy. However, because there's so much money to be made on test kits and the follow-up on antiviral drugs, the HIV test flaws have been ignored. Again, like other health conspiracies, power, political gain, and profit rule. The flaws include: the test can give positive results from something like 70 different cross-infections. For example, a person could be HIV positive just because they have a cold or flu. There are many other flaws in HIV/AIDS hypothesis, but I'll leave it there for now. Number 7. Cover-ups of nutrition and vitamin supplements as sources of curing disease. Have you noticed that every now and then mainstream media have a go at vitamin pills? That's because their sponsors, the medical, pharmaceutical establishment, who promote this want you to believe that they hold the only way to treat illness and disease. As explained above with Linus Pauling and vitamin C as a cure of heart disease, which is essentially long-term vitamin C deficiency or scurvy, there are many other ways of curing diseases using high-dose vitamins. For example, there's vitamin B3, niacin, for schizophrenia, vitamin D3, sunlight, for cancer, and once again vitamin C for cancer, which prevents metastases, migration or spreading of cancer cells. Number 8. Statins for lowering cholesterol. Just because someone has high cholesterol doesn't mean that heart health is seriously under threat. More and more conditions for justifying handing out cholesterol-lowering statins have been made. That's because they do indeed make big bucks for pharmaceutical companies. According to reports, $35 billion in sales were made on statins just last year. There are many flaws to challenge the high cholesterol heart disease theory, such as the French anomaly. They have the highest level of blood cholesterol, but the lowest incidence of heart disease compared to other neighboring countries. Aboriginals have around 4 times more heart disease than Western world individuals, but with the lowest cholesterol. Some studies, like the one at Harvard, have shown that statins produce no effective outcome for women. There's no need to be that careful about the food you eat because your body makes about 4 times more cholesterol than dietary intake. Perhaps you might say, here is the clincher. Statins do not have any effect on how long people will live. There are other flaws. Number 9. Fats are bad for you. Much of this false indoctrination has much to do with food advertising and the ubiquitous low-fat or fat-free labels you see in supermarket stores. Remember that fat is part of your dietary requirement, and it is therefore important to get a good quality dietary intake of fat. Number 10. Watch out, there's a disease about. Another example where the establishment try to pull the wool over our eyes is when we're told that there's a new disease going around. The mainstream media effectively causes mass panic, and people are encouraged to get pharmaceuticals to protect themselves, and sales rocket. However, the disease does not exist. Examples of this include the swine flu and the bird flu. If they had existed, they would have caused illness and death on exponential levels. But rather like pop stars that had only one hit years ago, it could now be asked, where are they now? In light of all this, as said before, keep asking, keep questioning, and do your own research. Then this will allow you to make effective, informed choices on your health. Chapter 10. Conspiracy Theory, Boston Tunnel. Boston Tunnel is a prime candidate for a conspiracy theory attack. Many reasons for this indeed. Some say 9/11 happened for a combination of reasons: to tighten control of humans in the United States, to get rid of the asbestos liability in the Twin Towers, to have a war to support the military-industrial complex. So many such conspiracies out there. Really, some are completely preposterous. Others could work with an overblown imagination. Boston Tunnel has all of these potential reasons to be a target. First, Boston Tunnel is leaking, and next winter could be the end of it. It costs billions, and it is not working. The bin Laden family has assets in Boston. It would bring liberals in Boston and their friends in San Francisco to rethink Homeland Security. It could ensure another Republican victory. It gets the city off the hook from liability in case of future collapse of the tunnel. An international terrorist event could help the Army meet recruiting goals and reunite our population against our enemies. It keeps the war on terror going, etc., etc. Everyone knows with all the citizens watching, another attack on the United States will be difficult, and the international terrorists will need help from the inside. Boston Tunnel is an easy target and serves the will of those who wish to attain or retain power and control over the United States citizenry. Conspiracy theorists are quick to point out to Osama bin Laden, the CIA, the Coconut Grove folks, Illuminati, and other world conspirators. There are even a few who have said they have psychic abilities and have foreseen this. It is not surprising that the conspiracy theorists have cited the Boston Tunnel as a very probable target. The infrastructure of the city runs underneath and all around the tunnel. The traffic flow in the city cannot exist without it. The traffic times for rush hour gridlock are said to be 8 to 10 hours. In other words, if you get late at work, you may as well stay there, because it will take you 10 hours to get out of the city. Boston is a major city on the East Coast and much easier to hit than a Philadelphia or an overvigilant New York City. Major internet backbone also runs underneath the city here. It took 10 years to build the Boston Tunnel, and that means it would take at least that long to repair it in the event of a major international terrorist act. There is no way to guard the Boston Tunnel, as it is a freeway, and to slow down traffic with security checkpoints would only add to the already impossible metro traffic. Is DHS really able to prevent an attack on the Boston Tunnel, Baltimore Tunnel, BART train tunnel, or Channel in Europe? One must wonder as the international terrorists grow in recruits and numbers and are finding financing from rogue nations and WMD on the black market. Are these conspiracy theorists alarmists, or is this only the beginning? Papers, please. You are under arrest for your participation in college rally in 1980 when you were younger and naive. Come with us, please. You will not need anything where you are going. Sound familiar? The alarmists say so. Think about it. What say you? Chapter 11. Climate Geoengineering Conspiracy Theory. Some might have heard before about chemtrails or climate as for climate change. Consider geoengineering. Keep in mind that even though this is mostly opinion-based, this holds upon mostly research and some pretty obvious stuff. I hope you keep an open mind for the subject and feel free to comment below what are your opinions. Geoengineering. What is it? While some people can take comfort in the term geoengineering, thinking this couldn't harm us, we can be brutally wronged. Geoengineering, the deliberate, large-scale manipulation of an environmental process that affects the Earth's climate in an attempt to counteract the effects of global warming. In short terms, we have basically turned into Mother Nature. We now have the science and the technology to pretty much build up an ice storm, snowstorm, or create heat waves. We can almost take full control of the environment, which I don't know about you, but with the wrong hands, it can easily lead to disaster. This seems to be the situation right now, unfortunately. Look at the sky. You don't often see normal bubbly clouds anymore, do you? What we see more frequently is trails. When we see planes flying, they leave trails. There are contrails on your chemical trails. What you see in your skies today are mostly chemical trails. This is not false. This has been monitored and placed as not normal. To have trails that give off toxic chemicals into our atmosphere. The dangerous mix of chemicals include barium, nanoaluminum-coated fiberglass known as chaff, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores, yellow fungus mycotoxins, ethylene dibromide, and polymer fibers, which all play a harmful part of your health. This can reduce a big population and cause health problems for the long run. As you read, nano-aluminum-coated fiberglass, also known as chaff, is exactly as it says. They release nano-sized aluminum-coated fiberglass into our atmosphere, which ends up looking like abnormal clouds. And what this does, it reflects sun rays back into space, yes, like tiny mirrors, to prevent global warming. However, there is a big deal. Aluminum has 4 times the volumetric rate and is being breathed in by mammals and plant life, as they are nano. Aluminum nanoparticles can enter the brain and spinal cord quickly through the lungs and nostrils, adding that nanoparticles are much more inflammatory to tissue than other forms of environmental aluminum. Dr. Russell Blaylock, retired neurosurgeon, neurotoxin expert, and author, sees a connection of chemical trails, aluminum deposits to the rise of neurodegenerative diseases, especially among young people. He's talking about Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Lou Gehrig's diseases. For a long time, we were led to believe that these were to help our weather, to make it better, to make global warming easier on the population. However, things quickly turned upside down. Many people started to question with little answers. Authorities continually denied the idea of geoengineering. After a while of asking questions, demanding answers, and starting to get angry, they have now developed the term geoengineering as not a harmful name, but mainly something good, which is not. Chemical trails are being recorded and monitored. What seems to be doing good is obviously doing badly. This might be some news to you, as the media are doing their best to keep this a quiet subject. In the past, we did see a few articles regarding weird trails in our skies. But as the situation got worse, they are no longer putting the stories out there. Makes it look like it's nothing. Do not believe this is contrails, the trails that normal planes can leave behind, as the reason they would vanish in a matter of time. As for chemtrails, they last and fan out. It feels like we are being poisoned. The amount of metals falling on us in the past 2 years has increased thousands of times. If our water are being toxified and our air is being populated, what will be left for us to work with? As it is once said, if only people would stop to realize that the atmosphere is as thin as a layer of paint on a basketball, and that it is the only thing making life possible on this earth, we wouldn't use our home as a physics lab. Spotlighting on chemical trails today is the concept of geoengineering, but that doesn't mean it is the only thing that they are doing. From GMOs in our food, genetically modified organism, to fluoride in our own water, again a harmful chemical being put in our drinking water, supposed to help teeth, but all it is doing is causing often fatal bone cancer, dental problems, and brain problems. It is being strongly recommended for younger children to avoid fluoride water. This is getting out of hand, and there are many, many more of this where it came from. Chapter 12: Bizarre Space Conspiracy Theories. Here are some of the ridiculous space conspiracy theories that found their way into the public domain. Russia planned to hitchhike back from the moon. The conspiracy goes that in 1969, as the Apollo 11 astronauts made their way to the moon, Russia had sent their own unmanned probe called Luna 15 to the lunar surface. Luna 15 carried Soviet cosmonaut, but owing to the massive oversight, the Soviets didn't have the means to bring him back from the moon. The plan was to land the cosmonaut near Apollo 11, then stroll over and ask Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong for a lift home. This is absurd because it's impossible for a country to send someone to the moon and not have a way of bringing him back. Nibiru is going to destroy us all on the 21st of December, 2012. This theory suggests that there is a hidden planet inside the solar system that is on a collision course with Earth. The planet is either hidden behind the Sun, away from our view, or behind Pluto's orbit and rapidly makes its way towards people. The moon landings were all a hoax. In the 1960s, NASA was able to convince the entire world that they had successfully landed on the moon. They went ahead and spent 10 years carrying out fake missions, and then under the watch of President Kennedy and millions of people worldwide, they created a fake launch event, put together a studio where they filmed the lunar landings, and made a number of photos. The most recent thing is that NASA managed to quiet over 400,000 who worked towards the Apollo missions. Up to date, it's not clear how the organization was able to quiet such a big population. Experts believe that it resulted from either brainwashing or being given huge wads of cash. The Earth is flat. In 1956, Samuel Shenton started an organization that claimed that the Earth was flat rather than spherical. The beginning of this belief dates back in the 4th century BC, where many people believed that the Earth was flat due to a lack of exploration around the globe. Ancient Greek philosophers are the only ones who suggested that the Earth might indeed be round. The most amazing thing is that despite the flat Earth society facing a number of obstacles, including the fact that the Earth is spherical, the society still exists, and its president is none other than Daniel Shenton, who is the son of Samuel Shenton. Chapter 13: Cyprus Financial Crisis. Most commentators agree that the Greek Republic of Cyprus has been unfairly treated by the Troika of the European Commission, the European Central Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. The requirement for a national government to impose a levy of deposits was a surprising and deeply disturbing innovation. The pain for the government of the Greek Republic of Cyprus was lessened by their decision to penalize deposits in excess of 100,000 euros. This means that most small depositors, that is, the majority of the electorate, would not suffer losses. Those depositors with funds in excess of 100,000 face a most uncertain future. Their accounts are frozen, and they are likely to incur losses of up to 50%. Many of these depositors are Russians, and they have made a major contribution to the economy of South Cyprus in recent years. The conspiracy theory runs as follows. Number 1. The EU has been frustrated and angry with the Greek Republic of Cyprus since 1974. The EU was led to believe that both North and South Cyprus would agree to the terms of the Annan Plan, and that the island would be reunited. Referenda took place in both parts of Cyprus. Voters in North Cyprus were in favor of reunification by a large majority, but voters in the South rejected the Annan Plan. In the South, the government, church, and most of the media publicly criticized the Annan Plan and promoted its rejection. This was badly received in Brussels. Number 2. The ongoing and persistent hostility of the Greek Republic of Cyprus towards Turkey's application to join the EU has been a severe strain on relations between the EU and Turkey. The increasing importance of Turkey as an economic power in the Middle East and its crucial role in a resolution of the conflict in Syria has led the U.S. to broker better relations between Turkey and Israel. The U.S. has been quietly working behind the scenes to smooth the path for Turkey's accession to the EU. While the Obama administration can claim some success in the recent thawing of relations between Turkey and Israel, the predictable intransigence of the Greek Republic of Cyprus has been a source of ongoing irritation in both Washington and Brussels. The fact that President Christofias was a communist and publicly admired Fidel Castro brought him to the attention of the CIA. Both Presidents Bush and Obama refused to sanction CIA dirty tricks aimed at discrediting President Christofias. Number 3. The response of the Greek Republic of Cyprus to mounting financial pressures was to seek and secure a €2.5 billion loan from Russia in 2011. This was an attempt by the government to circumvent the Troika and its financial disciplines. Number 4. Based on the above factors, a decision was made to punish and humiliate Greek Cyprus. The proposal that all bank accounts should be levied emanated from the EU, who was well aware that the implementation of such a proposal would be political suicide for any government. Number 5. The EU expected the Greek Cypriot government to run to Moscow in order to secure further loans. The Greek Cypriots had several proposals for the Russians. They suggested that Russian investors buy out the Laiki, or Cyprus Popular Bank, and they were prepared to offer the security of the large and untapped natural gas fields surrounding Cyprus as long-term collateral. Number 6. The natural gas resources of Cyprus are a contested resource by the Greek Republic of Cyprus and Turkey, who argues that both North and South Cyprus should share the benefits of the resource. Turkey was briefed by the EU on the impending financial crisis in South Cyprus and made several announcements concerning the natural gas fields and the likely routing of pipelines to Turkey. It was also made clear to Russia that any exploitation of the resource by Gazprom, the Russian energy giant, would require the active cooperation of Turkey. Number 7. Turkey has already demonstrated the seriousness of the Cyprus gas issue by suspending its deals with the Italian firm ENI. The Italian firm was working on the Samsun-Ceyhan pipeline that will deliver Russian and Kazakhstan oil to the coast of Turkey. The contract was summarily suspended in mid-March 2013 due to ENI's license agreement with the Greek Republic of Cyprus. Number 8. The mission to Moscow for more loans was doomed to failure before the Greek Cypriots landed in Moscow, and this left them at the mercy of the EU. Number 9. The requirement for €5.8 billion to be confiscated from Cypriot bank accounts in order to release a bailout of $10 billion has devastated the banking and financial sector of the Greek Republic of Cyprus. The property sector, fueled by demand from Russians, will shortly be in freefall. Number 10. Greek Cypriots have compared the financial disaster to the invasion of 1974 by Turkey. They are correct. The implications of the crisis will profoundly cripple South Cyprus for at least 5 years. Number 11. Turkey has now positioned itself as a savior for the island of Cyprus. The Turks have made proposals for the exploitation of the natural gas resources. Firstly, the island becomes a united state of Cyprus, and there is joint exploration of the resource. Secondly, Greek and Turkish Cypriots form a joint committee to exploit and market the resource. Or thirdly, there becomes a permanent two-state solution for the Cyprus problem. Number 12. The Greek Republic of Cyprus will have very few options left other than that of becoming more accommodating towards Turkey and North Cyprus.